The TTC public meeting will begin shortly. The TTC public meeting will begin shortly. The TTC public meeting will begin shortly.
Are we going public?
No, we're not public.
Good morning,
thought-
members. We are now live.
Okay, thank you very much. We're live. Commissioners, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The clerk has confirmed that quorum is present. I would ask the clerk to read the land acknowledgement at this time.
Thank you. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit.
Thank you very much. Before we dive into this meeting and get working toward the business and the agenda items, I want to talk a little bit about a major loss that we've experienced recently. I, as well as the board, were deeply saddened to share that our Chief Strategy and Customer Officer, Kathleen Lewin-Thomas, passed away on May 2nd. I would like to begin the meeting today by expressing our sincerest condolences to Kathleen's loved ones. I wasn't able to attend Kathleen's funeral in person, but I did watch it online, and I know many of you were there. It was a beautiful service and very moving tribute to her life. I thought it was just a wonderful event. And I want to tell you a little bit about her career because it was quite illustrious, and you may not know what a storied and amazing career Kathleen had. But she served as the Director of Engineering for Metro Toronto, through amalgamation into City of Toronto, and Commissioner of Transportation and Community Planning for York Region. She was also the Chief Operating Officer for Toronto Community Housing, Strategic Advisor to the City of Halifax, General Manager of Arts, Culture and Community Services at the City of Vancouver, and finally as Chief Customer and Strategy Officer for the Toronto Transit Commission. She was a very dedicated and passionate public servant. Kathleen was a strong leader, and she brought invaluable and fresh insights to everything she tackled. And the expertise was unparalleled that she brought to every project she worked on at the TTC. And her incredible team that are left behind, they're a testament to her leadership and her guidance. When I first became the chair of the TTC, I could not help but notice that Kathleen was always in the room. No matter what the meeting topic was, she was always there. And as the Chief Strategy and Customer Officer, she introduced the TTC's first ever 5-year service plan, initiated our long-term fare collection strategy, championed regional fare and service integration, and reset our relationship with Presto to put us on a better and more productive path. She was deeply involved in so many initiatives underway at the TTC, and she and her work will leave a permanent mark on this organization, and of course, all that knew her. I was so impressed and inspired by her resilience and strength as she tackled her health issues. And she continued to contribute almost daily to the TTC throughout her very challenging days. So, as I said, those who know Kathleen loved her. She was a loved and loving person. She will be remembered for her intelligence, her positivity, her optimism, and she was indeed an incredible asset to the TTC. I know I speak for all of us when I say that she will be deeply missed. Okay. Declaration of interest. Seeing none, approval of minutes. Shelley Carroll,
So
Commissioner
moved.
Carroll.
Yeah.
Commissioner Carroll moves that. Thank you. All those in favor, show of hands. Okay, that passes. So we're going to move to the statement about the basically how the meeting works. We're all very familiar with it. If you have questions or you would like to speak, make sure the clerk's aware. Everybody has 5 minutes. There are no deputations today on the items before us. And if you have technical trouble, let us know and we'll assist. So I'm going to go through the order paper now and start with the CEO officer's report. And we're going to hold that because we have not only the report, but there's also a presentation today as part of that report. Number 2 is the ACAT minutes. I'll hold that in my name for a verbal update. And then we've got the number 3 is the establishment of an HR committee, and there's a confidential piece to that. I would move that now.
I have some questions on it, Madam Speaker. I apologize because the report is in camera.
Okay, so what we'll do is, if you're okay with that, is we'll do it as the last item so we can get
Sure.
on with the items of the day. So we'll go
Sure.
in camera at the end of the meeting. I think that's most effective. All right, so we'll come back to that. Number 4 is 834 Caledonia Road Industrial Space Lease Agreement. And this is also has a confidential attachment, but we could move it now unless there's any questions. If somebody would like to move it. Okay, I almost called you Councillor Fenton. Councillor Fenton. Commissioner Fenton. Oh, maybe someday. Commissioner Fenton. Commissioner Fenton is moving that. Oh no, JDO. Commissioner Fenton, JDO. I just changed your last name.
Chair
Okay.
Robinson, you're fine. No.
Okay, he's moving that. Any other, anybody else want to vote for that? That is moved. Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Modern TO is the next one, a workplace modernization program date. I'd actually like to hold that. I have a couple questions on
same
that
here.
one. Okay, there's 2 of us. Item 6 is York Mills Station Metrolinx bus terminal lease agreement. I think I'll just hold that for now. I have one quick local question on that, but I'll hold that. 7 is Bloor Young Capacity Improvements Project, procurement authorization. I think that one can probably go. Would anybody, okay, so Commissioner Lalonde is moving that. All in favor? That carries. The next one is 8, Microsoft Cloud Subscriptions 2022 update.
I'm ready to move it, Madam Speaker. I don't know if
Okay.
there are any holds.
Commissioner Carroll is moving that. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Number 9 is procurement authorization of supply of oh, I can't say that, parts. Anybody want to move that? Or okay, Commissioner Osborne is moving that. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. And number 10 is active COVID-19 screening contract amendment. Would anybody like to hold that item?
I would like to ask some questions on that.
Okay, I'm going to hold that in your name. And we're going to head back to the beginning of the agenda, which is the CEO's report. If I could pass it along to our CEO for a presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the kind words about Kathleen. I also will have some remarks on a solemn note. I'd let everyone know that the entire TTC family has lost a great person, a mentor and a colleague to so many. And for those of us that have been fortunate to know her, I would tell you a real true friend. Under her leadership, the TTC became a more customer-focused and strategic organization. And thank you again, Chair, for making remarks regarding what she initiated. I'd let people know that the changes that she did initiate have really formed the foundation of even better things to come. And Kathleen, her legacy will live on. Many at the TTC, many of the employees had the opportunity to say goodbye, Kathleen, at the heartfelt service last Friday on May 13th. Kathleen leaves behind a family that was so devoted to her, as well as so many friends, including myself. No words can adequately express either our sadness or our gratitude for the opportunity to have worked with Kathleen. So I just say, please keep Kathleen in mind in your thoughts with her families. Now I'll move on. Commissioners, as you know, we're in the midst of Asian Heritage Month, and this is a time to commemorate the important contributions of Asians, South Asians, and Southeast, Southeast Asian Canadians. I'm excited to tell you that this is for the first time we're celebrating Asian heritage across all of our properties. Throughout the month, employees who identify as Asian, Southeast Asian, or South Asian are sharing their heritage around the TTC through posters and videos and written features across all TTC channels. Now, recognizing Asian Heritage Month is an important part of our broader commitment to build a more equitable and inclusive transit system for everyone. I've repeatedly expressed how diversity and inclusion are priorities for this organization and how the TTC needs to reflect the city in which we serve. An important part of this is ensuring that we're doing everything that we can to ensure that the TTC is a welcoming place for everyone. Now, yesterday, Compto Toronto and Region held a virtual panel discussion on the topic of stereotypes and biases impacting Asian Canadians in the workplaces across Canada, and also how we can address that in our industry. The discussion included a couple of distinguished speakers. I'd like to tell you who they were. It was a real good hour of conversation. We had Ruby Dillon, the founder of Pink Attitude. We had Rosal Kim, staff lawyer with the Women Legal Education and Action Fund, as well as Shirley Samdale, who is the Director of Operations for Coast Mountain Bus in British Columbia. We want to thank them all for that. It also lets you know that the TTC continues to restore service levels to routes across the city. Earlier this month, we introduced service increases and reliability improvements to 41 routes, including the major restoration of our express buses. We also introduced 2 new seasonal services as well, the 172 Cherry Beach and the 174 Ontario Place Exhibition. And as always, people can go to the TTC website and see a full listing of all of our routes. I'd also let you know that we're making some important improvements as well for the June void period, which will start on Sunday, June 19th. As is noted in the CEO's report, and as the reopening of the city and the economy carry on, the TTC continues to see gradual ridership across all of our modes. Bus boarding levels are now at 63% of our pre-COVID levels, and streetcar and subway boardings are at 55 and 48% respectively. And last week, we received the great news from Mayor Tory when he officially lifted Toronto's COVID-19 emergency declaration. And while we do remain positive, it is important for us to remember that the virus is still circulating in our communities. And while the city is seeing its public health indicators decrease or hold steady, it is vital that we remain vigilant and follow all safety precautions in our workplace. Mask wearing for customers and employees does continue to be required at the TTC until June 11th. Now, moving on, let's say happy anniversary or 30th anniversary to ACAT. Since 1992, the Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit has provided their experience and expertise to TTC staff on the difficulties faced by people with disabilities and seniors. The TTC's made advancements over the past 3 decades in order to ensure that our network becomes increasingly barrier-free. ACAT, which celebrates its anniversary on May 19th, has been there for us the entire way, making certain that we recognize the diversity and mobility of our riders so the TTC remains everyone's system. So on behalf of Wheel-Trans and the entire TTC organization, I'd like to thank and congratulate ACAT for the work well done and all of the current members, but I'll mention specifically Chair Marriott and Vice Chairs Gillespie and Dressler for all their hard work, as well as the rest of the remaining board. So thank you for that. I'd also like to remind everyone today that, or our viewers, about our TTC 100 contest. we invited school-age kids in Toronto, they're our future generation of riders, to share their vision of the TTC of the future. They sent us their best ideas through illustrations and drawings and models, as well as written correspondence. Submission deadlines were closed on May 15th, so I want to say a big thank you to everyone that participated, and we're going to announce our contest winners on the 8th of June. And all winners, just so you know, will be eligible to show off, we're going to say, their imagination at the Transit Fair at Nathan Phillips Square on August 22nd, which will help us conclude our 100th anniversary celebration. So again, details regarding this event can be found on the ttc.ca website. Now, Chair, what I'm going to do is in the hot topic section of the CEO commentary, you see the topic on which we started to move because you made a motion back in early 2021 regarding how are the TTC using the data and analytics from all the systems that it had acquired over the years. And so I'm going to introduce Randy Reuter, the head of research and analytics, to talk about how we're using the analytics and how we're moving forward with the working group that Wendy's established. So Wendy, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Rick. Chrisanne, if you could bring up that small presentation. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Data is the new asset. Over the last several months, as Rick mentioned, TTC's Advancing Analytics Group have brought together senior staff from all across the organization with a deep knowledge of our data and our systems to work together towards shared objectives and to make recommendations for the organization. Next slide, please. This is a large organization with many specialty areas. Through TTC's core 18 systems, we are collecting a wealth of data with huge untapped potential. These are the systems that support our operations, our marketing, vehicles, finance, people, and customers. But technology is only one part of the puzzle. Our current operating model for data analytics and advancement is decentralized. It's embedded in the business units. Envision each one of these systems is aligned with a key function inside the organization. We have sparks of innovation arising, and our IT department is developing an advanced BI architecture. However, there's significant opportunities to formalize and to scale our analytics capability with our people, our processes, and our strategy. Next slide, please. I'd like to share a few examples. Access by Transit measures the performance of transit, enabling Toronto residents to reach important destination types. The analytics behind here evaluate the ability to reach destinations across the city, like employment opportunities, healthcare, social opportunities, groceries, and even green space. It also lets us demonstrate the value of transit investments in terms of broader community benefits. This is a new analytics tool that we built over just the last few months. It helps answer how do service changes impact how many jobs are within 60 minutes? Can TTC compete with driving when getting groceries within 15 minutes? How does service reliability affect access to hospitals and clinics within 30 minutes? Coupled with demographic insights, Access to Transit analyzes the equity implications of all of the above. This relies on our GTFS scheduled travel times, AVL actual run times, Toronto Employment Survey, number of open data sources to build travel time matrices for the whole city. And then from every area of the city, we calculate the total number of opportunities reachable within a test travel time. The particular example that's shown here shows where access to jobs by transit will grow the most on line 5. While all segments of customers benefit, analysis confirmed lower income households will see the greatest benefit. Similarly, we could also look to see how access for customers increased for recreation, healthcare, education, and groceries. Next slide, please. Child card use increased as a proportion of all fares since its introduction. Examining the historical use of the child card, TAPS identified increasing use in particular during the pandemic. Location, time of day analytics were used to identify the travel behaviors were not aligned with actual child travel. And we estimated that misuse was about 90%. Upgrades to the fare card readers this fall modified the Presto screen and the sounds when child cards were tapped. And these had immediate change on the reduction of child card use, about 90%. Next slide, please. January 3rd, Facing Omicron, Toronto Public Health advised Toronto employers to anticipate extensive absence rates. We knew this would impact operator availability as well as customer demand, and that all available resources had to be deployed in a manner to prioritize vehicle occupancy for customers. TTC staff leveraged recent occupancy analytics capabilities, along with prior lockdown travel patterns, to forecast potential occupancy levels for January and February on a per route time of day basis. This was provided to the operations teams to develop a plan to deploy demand responsive buses where they were needed most. Next slide, please. Looking deeper, we've begun fusing demographic attributes with stop level data. This is enabling planning and equity analysis by providing insights into socioeconomic characteristics like gender, income, and occupation at the stop level. Service planning has used demographics for years, but spurred on by COVID pandemic, we've developed these insights at the stop level to really understand where TTC customers specifically continue to use transit at very different rates based on their levels of income, occupation, and more. Next slide, please. As we begin planning for a future beyond the pandemic, there's an opportunity for TTC to continue to learn more about who has continued to ride public transit, where people traveled during the pandemic, and what times of days people traveled, and the economic importance of TTC. Staff are leveraging Vision, APC data, Presto, ArcGIS, Faregates, YMSS, which is from our Line 1 subway line, and customer research analytics to conduct a comprehensive review of travel patterns over the last few years. For example, early insights indicate that our 20 top routes largely performed as it did before COVID. Fewer riders overall, but with few exceptions, the top 20 routes remain the top 20 routes. However, in addition, high ridership corridors, there's also been routes with above average numbers of boardings and ridership retention. Thinking of these as recovery leader routes who have played a significant role in ridership recovery and connecting our customers to essential trip destinations, including employment areas. Next slide, please. Ridership demand varies not only by route, but also by time of day and mode. This example here illustrates how our analytics are being used to understand the times of day travel is most in demand. The light gray represents pre-pandemic volumes from 2019. Dark gray was the lowest point of COVID during spring of 2020. And deep blue is the fall of 21, and gold spring of 22. Illustrating that the times of days that customers now have demand is surpassing the fall of 21. Notably though, bus use in non-peak times is closer to pre-COVID levels than at those peaks. And similarly, streetcar and subway have higher recovery at non-peak times. Part of the review for the 5-year service plan reset will also look at pandemic impacts time of day. So more information and more insights about rider demand at our July board meeting. Next slide, please. When disruption delays occur, overcrowding our subway stations becomes a customer safety concern. So leveraging the passenger Wi-Fi connectivity information, we partnered with BAI and Ryerson to create a successful machine learning model to detect overcrowding in real time, and send email notifications to our station operations, which they can then use to realign resources to support our customers. Further leveraging our station Wi-Fi connectivity, we're continuing to work with BAI to deliver passenger travel journey origin destination insights. This will provide us with fact-based data to understand passenger travel patterns, including travel time, origin, destination of their journey, all using anonymized data. As we go forward and we develop our digital infrastructure, the future implementation of Wi-Fi on our surface vehicles will also further provide complete model of data passenger end to use across the entire system. And there's many more. In diversity, developing new data collection, mining, and mapping capabilities now of employees to inform people policy and recruitment. In safety, our new Safety Connect system will not only enhance monitoring of risk and safety, but because it'll be a centralized data collection system, it'll enable merging of safety data across cross-functional analysis. Our special constables data, we're leveraging their incident data to partner with the city's SafeTO initiative. And finance, is using deep analytics of customer patterns, how they use the system, their frequency, how often, as well as indicators such as office occupancy to understand ridership recovery and to model and forecast revenue returns. And capital projects using analytics in new ways to evaluate efficient project delivery, but also to inform investment decisions on city building initiatives. Next slide, please. So TTC has made significant advances in data and information. However, we're not yet where we need to be to really advance our data development and data science practice further. Some things that hold us back are data processes, expediting the development of our strategically significant data and removing legacy processes, data access, eliminating the silos, improving data access, privacy rules, and transitioning the organization from a focus on stats reporting to purpose-driven analytics. Next slide, please. So going forward, we're developing a data and analytics center of excellence approach to advancing TTC's analytics capabilities. The hub and spoke model will establish enterprise-wide approach to data strategy while enabling business unit innovation. The hub will be responsible for establishing priorities around data enablement, governance, advancement, lead cross-functional data analytics across the business units, provide centralized analytics team, and support data innovation with external partners, including advanced AI and machine learning capabilities. And importantly, champion skills development and data culture transformation in the business units. The business units have a very active role as well. Continued role as subject matter experts in the areas that they know best, advancing the analytics practice within their own business units, responsibilities for data stewardship within their business units, and actively engaging in the cross-functional analytics team, data governance and policy setting as well. So that's the introduction of our work, our Center of Excellence, and just close by saying the Analytics Working Group are extremely excited about the advances to date, our work together across the organization, and the next phase of our analytics together. Thank you.
Chair, that concludes the CEO's
Okay.
remarks, and I'll turn it to
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, I thought you were actually going to speak again. So it's wrapped up. So that's great. So we do have one question, maybe two. We're going to start with Commissioner Carroll and then go to Commissioner Jagdeo.
Oh, thanks. The question is not so much about the analytics, although I do have one question about the presentation we just had. It's great that we have the deep knowledge of it now, but I'm wondering for when we're out having community consultations on ridership and they're saying we want this for that route and et cetera, are we going to be able to have a sort of condensed version of this so that we can explain that, anecdotally, I know you think the ridership is X. Here's how our analytics work, and here's what they're showing us, so that they understand that we have a much more true picture of stop by stop rider analytics now. Can we concisely present that?
Thanks for the question. The approach for the analytics work is really all across the organization. And I think what we're talking about is how do we plan going forward, and how do we know we have the right information for the planning, service planning going forward. So the work that we can do with analytics is provide all of those insights. Yes, we can understand who's using the stops. We can understand what the demand is by day. And then our service planning teams will be using that information.
Yeah, I get that. You're going to provide them, and now we have them. But I think there's a disconnect when we go out to engage with the community sometimes. I don't think they understand even half of what you're now capable of doing. And so we'll say, well, the ridership is X. And they'll go, oh, but have you counted this day? Have you counted that day? I think you're wrong. Will we have a concise little sort of communication tool where we can say, here's how we arrived at what we arrived at, so that they understand that we really do have that granular level of a stop-by-stop analytics. I'm speaking specifically to the ridership part. I know it's across the organization. But
Chair,
I
if
think
I,
we need the community to understand what we're working with, is what I'm saying.
I think the CEO would like to answer.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask Scott if he'd talk, because I'd like to share the information as we do our community outreach. And now that we have more and more of this information, share with the community on how we're assessing and providing this service for them and getting their input. But Scott, would you just jump in for a moment, give that 30-second overview?
Absolutely. Yes. So through the chair, the short answer is yes, we would be happy to share this information with our customers. We are about to launch more information about ridership on our website. We promised to do that for a long time, and we're going to be doing that fairly soon. And then the other significant thing is that a couple of the presentations that you saw, and a couple of the slides you saw in Wendy's presentation are
Yeah.
actually previews of the information that we'll be taking out this summer and fall as a consultation on the refresh of our 5-year service plan. And one of the big takeaways in that is that, yes, we have lots more information now about our customers than we ever used to have. And
Yeah.
we can use that to plan things better, and we can use that to engage better with our customers. So yes, we look forward to doing exactly what you asked for, Commissioner.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to try one more time, Madam Chair. Big consultation, great. But what I'm asking, any commissioner, or for that matter, any counselor, we get a call and we're asked to have a town hall because we're mad about bus route X. Can you provide me with a slide that concisely explains how we do analytics, and we can use it in any consultation? That's what I'm hoping for. I can leave it at that today, and maybe take this offline, Madam Chair. But seeing it in this full presentation, and you want to have a meeting about it, great. But I'm talking about the day to day, month after month, year after year. We go out, we have to have these conversations. I need a master explanation slide that I can say, here's how we arrive at what we arrive at. And now you can hear from the staff member. It just will lend credibility to any meeting we have. That's what I'm getting at.
Now, through you, Chair, again, yes, we'll
Yeah.
do the exact, we'll meet with you, your counselor, and we'll go over that you can help us with that. We'll provide every information of the granular detail. Absolutely.
I would love that. Okay. And then my question in your report, it goes to the financials on ridership on page 13. We see that happily we're a little bit above budget in terms of fare revenue, but recently with the gas price huge jump, we keep hearing in the media, reporters saying, I was on the subway, it's so full. I actually have not been on the subway for the last 2 weeks, but people keep saying, oh, everyone's back on the subway. So what's the date of the fare revenue projection or actual that we have here on page 13? And even post the writing of this report, are we seeing more of a growth? Are we getting closer and closer to budget?
So thank you for the question through the chair. Yes, what you have here is period 3, but the most recent information up until the week ending May 7th is that from a revenue perspective, we're actually tracking ahead at about 59% of pre-COVID normals, where we were at about 52 in the report. So it is climbing.
Okay.
And yeah, we're doing better and merging along our forecast line.
Oh, okay, excellent. So we still don't have the other government partner plug-in that we were hoping for in full, but we may get further to closing the gap with our own ridership. Am I overly optimistic, or is that a fair assessment?
So through the chair again, as I said, we're merging back up to the line of our forecast, which saw us moving towards 80% by year end. Failing any other major variants in the fall, we're hoping that we can stay on track.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jagdeo, you're next.
Thank you, Chair Robinson. Rick, Wendy, thank you so much for the presentation. I want to talk and ask a couple of questions around the analytics, and I get jazzed and inspired every single time that I see an institution think so deeply about how we can use data analytics and technology to drive decision making. My questions stem from the idea of transparency, and I was hoping to understand if there's somewhere on the roadmap that we plan on building out an open data portal of some sorts that we can share all of these data points with the public that can help drive a couple of things. The first one is if they wanted to go and manipulate that data to come up with solutions to advocate for, they could go and do that. If potentially there's an opportunity to, and I'm not saying that we're outsourcing the data analytics, but if there's an opportunity to give people who may be experts the ability to take that and do something with it, we should be able to do that. So I wanted to know if that's on the roadmap. And the second thing I wanted to know is these descriptive statistics are so important. And I think it's so valuable that we put out some form of report. I don't know if it's on an annual basis or a quarterly basis that just goes through like, here are the coolest 100 pieces of statistics that you need to know about the TTC, that walks through every part of our value chain. I think that could be great for understanding how important the TTC is to everything from climate change to exercise to driving economic prosperity for the city, just so our constituents understand the full 360 view of what transit does for the city. Because I think it's a false narrative for us to sit here and assume that everybody knows what those variables are. And if we're publishing those on a consistent basis, I think that could be helpful. So what do you feel about that?
Thank you. Through the chair, absolutely. The idea of open data is part of the roadmap. It is something that we're practicing now. And as we develop good quality data that can be made available to the public, this is the intention, is to assess that and make it available through these portals. So certainly we see the value in the opportunity for public to access it, not only from a transparency perspective, but also from the new insights they may be able to gain from these data, new tools that they may be able to build. We see from the open data that we make available now. So it's a great opportunity from making more data available. On the second point, very true. We need to also make it digestible. Not everyone's going to be interested in accessing open data and creating their own insights, but where can we use this data to create not only images of the stats, but the insights that one might get from these, and have them available and digestible for employees throughout the organization and the public as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions. Oh, Commissioner Osborne, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, I have seen myself the increases in ridership on the subway. It stands to reason that there would be increased ridership on the subway. We have, I think, a decrease in anxiety on the health front. The gas prices have gotten outrageous. And so I'm wondering if that, along with the heightened awareness of climate change, which just seems to be, day by day taking firmer root, if there is a plan for us, and maybe we're already doing it, I haven't seen it, but to more actively try and increase ridership, bringing people back who are casual riders, just, I don't know, taking a more aggressive approach to re-inviting people back to the TTC.
Thanks. Through the chair, I'll start that answer and then pass it over to my colleague Scott Haskell. These are areas we're continually monitoring. Your points around are the fuel prices affecting demand, is subway ridership changing, and it absolutely is, particularly in the downtown core, most recently, less so in other areas. So as we see customers return, understanding which customers are returning, why at different public health phases is part of what we're assessing. We're also regularly reaching out to our customers to get their sentiment about how they're using transit, why they're using transit, what are barriers or incentives, like the fuel prices, for how they might be using transit going forward. Researching with Toronto employers about what their intentions are with bringing commuters back. on a more frequent basis than they are now. So these are all inputs to the insights we have around how customers will be returning. And then, then we look to our groups around marketing and those teams to provide them with this information to set out plans for how they can attract customers to return. So for that, I'll hand it over to Scott.
Yeah, through the chair, as Wendy mentions, we do have an active welcome back campaign, which is going through several different phases, and that will continue. Importantly, we are adding service as and when we can, when resources are available, to the subway and to buses and streetcars, and we'll start to see some of those increases on the subway this summer and this fall. And the 5-year service plan reset is going to be largely focused on how do we attract customers back, which customers do we have now on the system, which ones are we missing, and where are the opportunities for bringing back more customers.
Thank you.
I don't see any other questions. I'll just ask the CEO about masking. And, that's one thing we hear a lot about on social media, and it's usually in the form of a complaint. And it's something that certainly bothers me personally. And people want to feel safe no matter where they are in the city. So you said in your report that that's going to end. Is there any hope that that would be extended? I know that's you don't have a crystal ball, but and would the TTC even pass that deadline if it's not extended, and continue to encourage riders to mask?
Through you back to you, Chair. Yes, but what's going on right now, Chair, is we know it's the province that has established the date of June 11th. But I can tell you that that date was established in consultation with all the transit systems in Ontario and specifically the GTHA. So that's how we're working with the province on that date, and we continue those discussions right now. I'd let you know we continue to do the surveys on a regular basis, and that about 94% of our customers are wearing a mask coming on to the TTC. So it's dropped 4 or 5 points, and about 88% of them, I think, Wendy, when you gave me the update this morning, are wearing them correctly. There's been no confrontation anywhere on the system. Continue to talk to the union on a regular basis as well about what their feedback and what they're hearing. People are acting very appropriately on the trains and the subway and streetcars at this time. We'll keep the board up to date as we continue the discussions with the province.
Yes, if you could do that, that would be great. And so just to clarify those numbers, what percentage are wearing masks? And you're saying all staff, TTC crew have to wear masks, correct?
Yes, customers are 94% of customers surveyed this past week were wearing masks, and 88% of them were wearing them correctly, not on their chin, over their nose and mouth. And all TTC employees continue to wear masks on property as well.
Excellent, thank you. We're going to move to speakers on this item. Are there any speakers? Okay, I'll just, Commissioner Carroll, go ahead and I'll speak as well.
Just quickly, speaking of analytics, I'm hoping that the information that we have about the mask wearing, I'm hoping that we're sort of checking different parts of town to arrive at that rate. Because I think part of the reason that we continue to get the complaints on social media and sometimes just calls to the office from our local constituents is that it's up and down depending on where you are, and even depending on what mode you are. And I think that's where the complaints come from. I rode home recently, and I deliberately did it because I was leaving the office really at the start of the peak. So I thought, often my hours are weird, but it's real peak time. So I raced over there to take the TTC because it was a real test as far as I was concerned. Pleasantly surprised, and pleasantly surprised on the Lawrence 54, although for some reason the operator wasn't wearing a mask. But I looked up and down the bus while I was sitting there going home. And Lawrence 54, well, it drops me in North York, is a pretty important road all the way out into Scarborough. And lots of people wearing masks. So, I would say 88%. But then we consistently get people calling because they were on a bus where there was hardly anyone. No one's enforcing. there were myself and three others. I'm quoting here. Myself and three others were wearing masks. No one else. So I'm wondering if, in looking for compliance, are we getting the kind of data back from whether it's coming from our fair enforcement officers or constables or whatever, are we getting the data back so that if there's a trouble spot in terms of compliance, we can go there and actually attempt to do a little bit of encouragement / enforcement?
Okay, that
It's-
was,
yeah.
yeah, that's not a
It is
question. That's
comments.
yeah, it's a
And
comment.
I'm leaving it as
Yeah.
it's really, it's a rhetorical question, as opposed to speaking notes. Because, I'm really reflecting, I think here, people listening into the meeting, if they're on one of those routes, are going to say 88%, that's bunk. And that then hurts credibility. And so I'm hoping that work is being done. And I think it really does need to be done. And then and only then will we stop getting the kinds of constant social media barrage that we're getting, Madam Chair.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. So, staff are taking note of that, and we'll probably follow up with you. All right. I just want to thank Wendy for her great presentation today. It was a high-level presentation, but an excellent one, and I think it's very exciting. And I know, Wendy, you've done a lot of work on this to pull this together. When I moved the motion, I was, to be brutally honest, it was a little bit because of the constant backlash about the 1950s. I won't get into that, but it's time that we do look at these tools and modernize. It's long overdue, and this is going to have a major impact on our decision making. This evidence-based approach. So I can tell the entire board's very excited about this and happy to see this happening, and would love to see it, up full force and up and running fully. But like I said, I do want to thank Wendy for bringing this motion into fruition. It's very exciting, and as we've heard, I think our residents will also very much appreciate this information as it evolves. So thank you to the CEO and to Wendy and to all the staff that were involved in this initiative. And we look forward to further reports and updates on this, because I think it should be basically embedded in all we do going forward. So thank you, and looking forward to what's in store in the future. On that note, sorry.
I was just going to say thank you, Chair Robinson. Appreciate those comments. I really want to acknowledge the work of the entire working group all across the organization that have been doing this.
Yes, and I knew there, Wendy, there's a big group, but I can't name everyone. So if you could take our sincere thanks back to your team. I know it's been a labor of love, I think. So it's exciting work. All right, so on that, we'll move the CEO's report. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And we're going to move to our next item, and that is the approved minutes of the ACAT committee, the general monthly meeting for March 31st. And if we could now have a presentation by our ACAT chair. I think he's online, I believe.
Madam Chair.
Okay, if you could go ahead. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. For those of you that haven't met me, my name is Jonathan Marriott. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a white male with blonde hair in my late 30s, and I'm wearing a blue jacket. I'm now going to present the subcommittee highlights for the month of March. Communications Subcommittee. Pilot project at St. George, Dundas, and St. Andrew stations. The Communications Subcommittee received a presentation on the pilot project, which aims to relieve congestion at the aforementioned stations during the busy rush hour period. The project will run for 4 weeks and then will be re-evaluated. The 30th Anniversary Communication Plan. The committee received a presentation on the ACAT 30th Anniversary Communication Plan. This plan intends to build public awareness and encourages interaction and involvement with ACAT. Highlights of the initiative include the TTC's key accessibility achievements over the last 30 years. The subcommittee chair invited all members to submit initiatives that they would like to highlight. Line 5 vehicle announcements. The Line 5 vehicle can be thought of as a hybrid between the structure of a streetcar and a subway. Accordingly, it is proposed that announcements on this line distinguish between the underground stations and the at-grade stations. The subcommittee noted that the proposed terminology of stop and station was too subtle and suggested other terms. TTC will follow up on these comments in a future Line 5 presentation. Design Review Subcommittee. Bike lanes at TTC stops. A presentation providing an update on the City Cycling project was delivered to the Design Review Subcommittee. The presentation reviewed the project from an accessibility perspective and outlined goals for 2022. This included creating standards for interactions between bike lanes and accessible boarding zones. The committee provided feedback. Davisville platform issue. The TTC gave a presentation in response to the DRS's concern about the safety and accessibility of narrow Davisville platforms. The presentation revealed severe structural restraints to relocating elevators, escalators, and stairs to remove the narrow areas. The subcommittee gave some suggestions on how to remedy this, and a motion was created. This was presented in April's Design Review meeting. I'd like to note that the Design Review Subcommittee is still waiting on feedback from Metrolinx concerning Line 5 Eglinton Crosstown. Service Planning Subcommittee. AV Shuttle Vehicle Presentation. The Service Planning Subcommittee received a presentation on an automated shuttle vehicle concept. The committee asked a number of questions on the back of Whitby's separate autonomous shuttle pilot project, which was unsuccessful. Wheel-Trans Subcommittee. Wheel-Trans Transformation Programme. A discussion and feedback session was held focusing on the customer experience of the existing technology concerning Wheel-Trans Transformation Programme. A further update will be provided on the programme, most likely in August. Lastly, I just wanted to reiterate that tomorrow ACAT will have reached its 30th milestone with the TTC. I'd like to acknowledge that this would not have been possible without the work of disability rights advocates, community members, our riders, whose activism and dedication have greatly improved public transit. On behalf of ACAT and the ACAT executive, I thank you all. This concludes my remarks, but I'm willing to take any questions through the chair. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan. Are there any questions? Okay, Jonathan, I just want to actually take a moment also to highlight that we're all celebrating the 30th anniversary of this amazing organization. And as you said, it's tomorrow. And so it's really a great opportunity to just remember and to recognize the valuable insights that have been provided by this organization and great advice, quite frankly, along the way over 30 years. And I can say for sure that without their work, we wouldn't be where we are. And that is that we've made significant strides in becoming a more inclusive and accessible system for transit riders. So I just want to say on behalf of the entire board, to the ACAT executive and beyond, thank you. And we look forward to our continued work together. So thank you very much, Jonathan. On that note, you're welcome, and hope the next 30 years are even better, bigger and better. Okay, thank you very much. On that note, we'll approve the minutes of the ACAT meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And thank you very much. We're going to move now to our next item, which is Modern TO Workplace Modernization Program Update. It's item number 5. And I know Commissioner Lalonde has questions on this item. If you could go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm focused on the 60% occupancy that's assumed in this program. And my question is around whether we have developed any HR policies around that, that target. And specifically what I'm concerned about is that, unless this is carefully thought through, I think we risk disadvantaging certain groups of our employees because it is important that people do spend time in the office as well. It's important for networking, it's important for mentoring, creating a collegial environment, helping with culture. So while I applaud the fact that we're able to be flexible, and I think that's really important these days in terms of attracting, retaining the right kind of employees, I think it needs to be thought through in terms of what our requirements will be for people to spend time in the office as well. So all of that's kind of a long-winded question for, have we fleshed out the HR policies that go along with the real estate policy at this point? Or if not, when will we be in a position to review those policies?
Through the chair, I can take that question. So the people group is responsible for pulling together those policies. Currently, we have a policy that's almost in final draft for the return to office, which is the post-pandemic view of things. And it is about, the requirement is people are to work in the office up to 3 days a week. And we have about 60%, and that's about a 60% ratio across the 1 to 1.7 across that work group. And currently we have about 85% of employees who are participating in that at that level, and other employees are more working from home due to accommodation issues, et cetera, and we're working through those. And there will be a policy that will come to support modern TO, and that's in development. We're working with the steering committee to pull that together.
Okay, that's great. I would encourage you to find a way to bring that policy back to the board when you have it completed. Thank you.
Yes, we will be bringing that part as part of the report back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Commissioner Carroll for questions.
Sorry, I actually read through the report in the meantime, and my questions are answered, so I'm good to adopt the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. Just if you could lay out for me, I don't disagree with what Commissioner Lalonde just said, because there is something about being able to access office space and feel like you're part of a team. And clearly the TTC is a huge team, and the more interaction between all various staff operations versus all the other roles is, I think, valuable. But I know the whole world has changed and we're very much hybrid now. But my question is more to the point of what is this new model for different buildings? Like right now, a lot of you are at the headquarters at Davisville, which I do love that old building. It's pretty awesome building. I know not on the inside, because I know there's buckets catching water on the inside, but on the outside it is a beautiful old building. But you'll be leaving there, going where, and kind of what is the model going forward for how many buildings you'll be occupying, and what is your preference? Like, I know Create TO and real estate have their own ideas, but what would be the perfect model going forward? I mean, obviously to be in one building, but that can't happen, I understand. So if someone could just highlight those items and issues.
Pam Kraft, would you mind taking that answer, please?
I'd be pleased to. Thank you. Thank you. So right now there are 9 leased buildings and 1 owned, as you referred to, 1900 Yonge. And we have been discussing with the Metro or Modern TO group to be located in Metro Hall and North York City Centre. We have a lot of staff now working in the North York Centre area. And so they're the technical groups, ECE, and that they will be staying in the North York Civic Center location. So the technical groups will be up there, and the more corporate functions are proposed to be going to Metro Hall. So that's finance, ITS, the executive team, legal, etc. And it's itemized in the report. We're in the process of identifying our reviewing our past growth to determine our future growth, and therefore, with the overall mobility ratio of 1 to 1.7, our actual space requirements to modern TO. And we hope that there's enough space in Metro Hall and North York, or if a third location will need to be considered to meet our desired mobility ratio. Our priority is to remain in 2 locations. We also have on the, as part of the meeting, we have Sylvia Fraser has joined us. She's the Director, Transformation Workplace Strategies at Modern TO, as well as Pat Matozo, Executive Director, Corporate Real Estate Management. And if there are questions on 1900 and its redevelopment, Peter Heron, Director Development of Create TO, is here as well.
Thank you, Pam. Could I ask Create TO? So I understand that the TTC is going to be broken out into these two buildings, North York and Metro Hall. Is there any fear or concern that they may have to be diluted into 3 buildings? Because that, I think, is my top concern, is 3 buildings would be too much and would dilute the, I think, the whole culture of the TTC. So is that a concern, or can we be assured that this is the model going forward and they're going to be housed in these 2 buildings?
And through the chair, this is Peter Heron from Create TO. I will. I know this question was directed to Create TO, but I will turn it back to my colleague Sylvia Fraser, who's directing the office relocation component of this through the Modern TO program.
Thank you, Peter, and Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer that. I would like to start by acknowledging the great partnership that we have built with the TTC in the preparation of the Master Accommodation Plan, which basically, it helps us plan as to who's going to go where and when. And so we are very open to continuing that collaboration and partnership with the TTC to make sure that we address the needs. The particular question around the 2 buildings, we are quite confident at the moment that we can accommodate not only what we have on hand, but also it's very important to forecast as well. And so it's an important aspect of our planning, and because we have lead time as well throughout the program, we are quite confident that we can accommodate the TTC in the 2 locations. With that said, if there is a need to accommodate beyond, or any other changes along the way, we are certainly open to look at other opportunities as well. I hope that answers the question.
If I could add to you, Madam Chair, when we were developing the workplace accommodation program, we always considered FTE growth and make sure that we allowed for growth across, not only for TTC and TCHC, but the city as well, understanding that program requirements will change over time.
Okay, well, that's good to hear that has been thought of, because certainly this is a growing organization. Okay, so I just, again, I want to be assured, and the board, that this will be 2 locations, not more. I have to just emphasize that sometimes we are criticized as an organization because service is not always perfect, but the more team focused we are and together, I think the more functional. So I'm just very concerned, and I would like real estate and also Create TO to let us know if there's let the board know if there's any shift from 2 to 3, because that would be certainly a concern for me, and I think possibly others. So I won't speak for others, but all right. So thank you very much. Thank you for that assurance, and we're going to move to speakers. I just actually spoke in questions. Any other speakers on this? Commissioner Carroll, go ahead.
Yeah, I did find in the report my answers to the questions. I wanted to check to make sure that there is the offset, because we look at this and we think, hey, wait a minute, we're doing this to save money. Why can't we keep the savings? If you're saving us money, all savings go back to Modern TO. But I wanted to go through the text of the report, never mind the charts, to make sure that it is the same sort of relationship we have with divisions. That the caveat is that going forward, modern TO does absorb some operating costs. They become a real full service landlord, and it is the same relationship here as with divisions. And so you know, on that basis, I welcome having a full modern TO relationship here. There's no question that this works. If people have any doubt, I think it's important for board members to note that when you do this, I mean, the guiding principle here is that 1.7 people now have one desk. And what it does is it drives savings that I'm not sure they're even being tracked, because what it does is drive people beginning to function paperlessly. It really does, because you really do become floating back and forth. You know, the hybrid work model, modern TO would have taken us there whether there was a pandemic or not, because you begin to look at you know, I got to lift it up and leave this desk now, or I'm coming in, but we're both in today, so I'm going to use that common table in the middle of the office, and we're going to work collaboratively and really share spaces. And what it does is drive paperlessness, and there's no question that we really start to save the big bucks when we're not creating mountains of paper and then little desk fiefdoms where people are storing stuff we just can't afford to store anymore. Every square inch is dollars. And so I'm really interested in this, but I am hoping that going forward we do track it a little bit, and that we get a report back from time to time that lets us know that because we are a different organization, I would be interested in hearing back, you know, a year or two down the road, how do the employees like it? Do they recognize the improvement? And is the financial balance really there? Yes, we made this big change, and the savings we made, we have to ship back to modern TO to use to continue to implement the program. But the full service landlord piece is balancing it out. I hope we are tracking that going forward, so that we know that even though we're a different organization, modern TO coming from the city inside our doors and helping us with this really gives us operating savings as well as capital savings. So I look forward to that. I have a feeling that if that isn't the case, we would definitely get a report. But a good news report would also be great, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. Other speakers? Okay, would someone like to move item 5? Commissioner Lalonde is moving. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. The next item is item 6, York Mills Station. I held that. I'm actually going to release it because it's a hyper localized issue at York Mills. So it's maybe not even really in the realm of this item or report. So I'll move that. Or if somebody else wants to move that, actually that would be good. The York Mills one. Denzel, I'm sorry, not Denzel, Commissioner Denzel. Commissioner Min Wong is moving item 6. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, thank you. The next item is item 10, Active 19, Screening Contract Amendment. And Commissioner Carroll, you held that item, so you can start.
Yeah, well, the big question, I'm assuming that this is an upset limit, increasing the amount of the contract. That's an upset limit. That's the maximum amount. If all of this is called to a halt, numbers are pretty good right now. So if we don't see another variant and we don't use it all to the end of the year, we're paying on the service as used, right?
Through the chair, Scott here. Yeah, that is correct. We've currently ended that service as of the first weekend of May, and the upset limit is simply to allow us to restart it if we need to, particularly this fall, through into the end of next January. So we're simply hedging our bets against the future. We don't actually have to pay any money if we don't restart it.
Oh, okay. So you actually have stopped it now. So it's really a retainer in case we do need it back again. So
Correct.
then the other question is, this is, I mean, you could argue about some COVID-19 costs. You could even argue about the ridership impact, but we can't argue about this one. Do we consider ourselves paid in full by our other government partners who agreed to cover these costs on this program, or have you just sort of bundled all the costs such that we can't tell?
So through the chair, I'll answer that question, Commissioner. So it is part of the overall COVID costs for which we're seeking, our relief funding. It's both the combination of passenger revenue loss as well as our expenses to respond to the public health, situation and all the measures we've had to take. So this is one of those costs.
So when we're going to them to negotiate it, there's a bundle, there's a basket of pure costs, and this is one of those. And then there's, if you want to argue about our ridership for a while, we will. But this one gets paid in full. Am I reflecting that the right way? Is that sort of how the conversation goes?
Yes. So through the chair, you are correct, Commissioner. There are true expenses like this one, as well as, the vehicle disinfection that we've had, our PPEs that we've had to have in place. And then there's the revenue loss from ridership. And so our expectation when we put forward our full amount, it's the combination of the two. And our hope is that we will get that full funding for 2022.
I asked this question because of the report we had to the city. We really do still have a gap, and we're still sitting with a balance that is at the city, an unbalanced operating budget. And the toss off, the easy thing to say is then it's all the TTC's fault. But but we are continuing to rigorously review our costs and to continue to have that conversation with the federal and provincial governments, right?
So through the chair, that's correct. In fact, out of the 1.4 billion, I believe that TTC is getting the lion's share of what has been made available to us thus far. But there still is an overall city gap of about 800 million, which includes, of course, a request that we permanently reduce our 22 capital budget by 87 million to help with that issue. And we're in the midst of that work right now.
Okay. Thanks, Madam Chair. Those are my questions. I don't need to speak.
Okay. Would you like to move the item?
Sure. So
okay.
moved.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, so that dispenses all of our regular items. We're now going to deal with one last item that's in closed session. So I will read the resolution to recess into committee of the whole. So if you could post, yes, thank you very much. So members of the public, we are now moving into closed session. We will return to a public session and the live broadcast at the end of this session. Thank you very much. And it'll take 2 or 3 minutes for us to technically turn over. So if anybody wants a quick break, we'll be back in 3 minutes.
The TTC virtual public meeting will resume shortly. 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 The TTC virtual public meeting will resume shortly.
I believe we're in public session again, if I could just have confirmation, and I've got confirmation. So we are back in public session and only have one item left. That is item 3, the establishment of a human resources committee. So if I could ask, I'd like to actually move the motion, if that's okay, that we vote on the staff recs establishing the committee and adopt the action taken in camera. All those in favor? I believe that's unanimous. Opposed, just to make sure it's unanimous. So we have a unanimous vote on that. Thank you very much. That is approved. I believe our meeting is adjourned because we have completed the agenda. So thank you, everyone, and to staff. Commissioner McKelvey, are you putting up your hand?
No, I was waving goodbye. And thank you.
Oh, all right. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks. Have a great long weekend once we get there. All the best.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Chris-Ann.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Be safe. Be safe.
The TTC virtual event has now concluded. Thanks for participating.